You're with Moms for Liberty, so you're telling me there's a new threat besides gender ideology, besides critical race theory. What's this third one?
So social emotional learning is basically the Trojan horse that allows critical race theory, that allows the critical queer theory, teaching our kids how to feel, teaching them about their feeling. Rather than parents paying for a therapist for their children, they let the teachers do it at school.
They talk about their feelings?
They talk about their feelings all the time, or they'll say, it's called formative conversations, and they'll say, so how can we show empathy? Let's say that we have...
So empathy?
Okay, so if the word, let's say they have a word of the week, and the word of the week at my child's school was empathy. And the teacher started talking, how can we show empathy? And then she says, if you have a friend that has two moms, how can you have empathy? Well, my child comes home and says, Mom, there can be two moms. You know, and then these conversations leading to agreeing with them.
Here we go. Hello and welcome to the TransPositions. I'm your host, Bree McHugh. And with me I have Stephanie Helms and Ember Belrad. We may or may not be getting some Carly live on location in Cincinnati. I don't know how we're gonna if she's gonna be able to manage to get us her live sports broadcast tonight. But we're fingers crossed, and we're gonna wait and see. But we got a lot to talk about before we get into sports. So yeah.
Wait. It's not Cincinnati. It's Canton, Ohio, the home of the American Football Hall of Fame. Where the American Women's Football League is doing their playoffs.
My mistake.
That's where it's calling from. Got my fingers crossed. I can't wait for a live report. That'll be fun.
People are digging the new do, Ember.
Sweet.
Yeah, I was hoping that we get some positive feedback. You look absolutely fabulous. So yeah, if we can get some live Carly later on, that would be great. But if not, I understand. You know, it's doing on location stuff is not something we've done before live. So if we do it, it'll be a first time event. But we did have a couple of things on the agenda for the round table this evening, I guess. Where'd my day go? The first thing is, since we last met, the presidential candidate has changed from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris now. Mm-hmm. I get mixed feelings about that.
Spoilers. People may not have heard.
Oh, yeah. I would hope that most people are in the know at this point, but if not, that's well, actually she's not. I mean, she's no more the nominee than any of us are at this point, but she's the prospective nominee, so to speak.
Yes, she's got the delicate delegates delegated. Which is to say they've promised that they'll back her. But
and they're throwing money at her, throwing lots of money at her. It's been kind of crazy. Yes. I'm not exactly thrilled, but I'm
over the fucking moon. Anybody else want to weigh in? I think it's great.
I agree.
Here, let me reiterate. Okay, I am not thrilled that our two-party system has made me have to choose between the obviously between the sex offender, right? the absolute monster, and then someone in just a cop with a questionable history.
It's an adult game of cops and robbers. Mm-hmm. We're back on the damn playground, but
I mean, to put it in perspective, though, I mean, Kamala Harris is 1,000 times better than Donald Trump, right? But
I'd argue that she's better than Biden.
And a state's prosecutor isn't a cop.
well, the DA, I consider that it's all cops. Yeah, everybody in that branch.
Every DA that I've interacted with thinks the cops work for them. It's not technically true, but details.
Judicial branch is cops. But regardless, you know, we could have a lot worse prospects, and the prospects are a lot better than they were before. Kamala does seem pretty progressive on a lot of things, and I imagine she's going to staff her cabinet with some pretty progressive people, right? I mean, we can hope, but
one would hope so.
Things that
I
mean, obviously for us here at TransPositions, there's a lot of issues regarding gender bills and legislation, bathroom bills, things like that, sports. Places like Oklahoma, where you can't even, a trans person can't even go to the bathroom in Oklahoma, in any public bathroom, unless they want to use the...
Oh, Kamala introduces herself and uses pronouns. It makes it clear.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a good thing. I mean, kind of a tiny good thing. But here's the thing about Harris and the opposition. What's the opposition going for? She laughs funny.
Yeah.
Let's see. She laughs funny.
She's too confident, but she's also too demure.
Confident, and it's a whole range. Oh yes, she's a DEI hire.
She's both an overzealous prosecutor and an ineffective prosecutor at once.
But here's the thing. They're going after these superficial things, like they do. They find this is going to be the focus, I think, of my piece. I'm sure we're going to get around to Melon Husk here in a few seconds, but they could be going after some of the stuff in her prosecutorial career that's actually, worthy of criticism. And I criticize it. It's like making prisoners go fight forest fires. But the problem is they kind of think that's a good idea. So they don't do that. They go after the trivial shit because that's all they've got.
And this
really demonstrates how weak their position is.
They were going for don't fight for old Sleepy Joe. He stumbles and he falls, and now they have to deal with a confident, self-assured, ambitious woman who is absolutely driven to beat the assholes. So I think it's a good trade.
And
it's like she's custom made for going after, a felon and sex criminal. Like, if you need to knock down a crook, you bring in a district attorney.
Yeah. So here's the little short clip that they were trying to use to say, "Oh, could you imagine this?" Yes, this is based.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome these leaders for coming in to have this very important discussion about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
Of course, that's all Breitbart samples, but context is key. Like, it's good that she does that. However, you could tell
they were wearing.
You have to be told, because you can tell the fact there's a sign language interpreter. That particular meeting was with a group of disabled representatives and advocates. Like, yeah, she's going to extra lengths to describe and be accessible and put everything out there for the people who don't have the sense perception to detect the things themselves. It's not like she does that every time.
Why are they mad it's not tan? Because she's wearing the blue suit. And then really, I think she said about the blue suit because they're wearing masks, making sure that everybody knew who was talking at that moment as well. Because conferences at tables are not a thing that happen a lot anymore because everybody's remote these days. Mm-hmm. But to present yourself with your pronouns, there's nothing. I don't see a problem with that. I think it's really weird people to get their claws hooked into that. It doesn't. And I think we should normalize to some extent leading with your pronouns when you meet somebody. But that's just my personal perspective on it, right? That's just my humble opinion.
It's a small symbol of allyship, but it's nice to see because, I mean, if it were only trans people who use pronouns, then using pronouns automatically outs you as a trans person. So we need the allies to do it too, to make it normal.
Yeah. If we're all doing it, and if it's something that's just part of our culture moving forward, that's great, right? Which it should be. I mean, that's the kind of culture I want to be a part of, anyhow. To where everybody gets to identify themselves instead of trying to have other people push them all into whatever box they feel is best fit for us.
And I've spoken a bit about boxes in my own coming out tale, and this is one of the things that really gets me charged up for Kamala, is that, she had a slogan all picked out and whatnot, but then it just got shoved aside in that conference she had in Wisconsin, where she ran through the whole thing. It was an epic speech, talking about how she has the experience for how to deal with somebody who's defrauded people, who's committed crimes, who is a sexual predator, and so forth. And then she scales it up to the whole movement, not just Trump, but all of MAGA. And then she says, we are not going back. And that's where I'm with her. Because we are not going back in the fucking box.
Right. And she's in a position to do it. Biden wasn't. She's in a position to make that a theme of the campaign.
Yeah, because Joe was from back then too, right? But
not just that, but he, in his demeanor, his behavior, his performance, looks matter. I mean, a lot of people said that Richard Nixon won the Kennedy-Nixon debates. The ones that listened on the radio and the people that watched it on television, they were absolutely certain that Jack Kennedy crushed it.
Yeah, because Jack Kennedy's good looking.
And it's only gotten worse since TV was a new thing. Yes, I am that old. It's only gotten worse since then because everybody's got, everybody is expecting a certain amount of pizzazz and presentation and this and that and the other thing. And if you can't deliver it, nobody's going to watch. It's eyeballs on screen, asses in seats.
Remember when you used to have to smack your TV on the side to get it the signal to come in better? Could you do that with the president? we gotta make it until January, regardless. So,
there's a non-zero chance that if the election gets decided, Joe may just say, "Fuck it, I'm going on vacation. Kamala's got it from here."
I don't think that's going to happen.
It's unlikely, but it's not a zero probability.
I imagine he's probably had a lot of weight taken off of his shoulders as far as what he's supposed to focus on right now, because running a campaign and running the country at the same time can be a little difficult.
That's the other thing. 2 full-time jobs
for an 81,
exactly the easiest thing.
Yeah, when does he turn 82? So he was turning 82 before the election, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
want to talk about melon?
Did you want to bring that up, or are we saving that for your segment, or just something different for your segment?
We can go either way. I have a whole bunch of stuff all lined up to talk about Melon and his daughter.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We can tease it a little bit if we want to.
Yeah, let's tease it out, and then we'll
Elon Musk sat down with noted philosopher and all-around asshole Jordan B. Peterson And they didn't have lobster before, as far as I know, but they may have done. So we could call it Jordan B. Peterson's clam bake. So Elon sits down, has a little bit of a back and forth with Jordan, and they get around to the subject of the woke mind virus. Mm-hmm. And Elon said that the woke mind virus stole his. Well, he used a different description. Stole his daughter from him, and dead-named the child twice, repeatedly misgendered the child, and there was a whole bunch of, we saw this. This was, by the way, on the Daily Wire. We saw this on Twitter a couple of days ago, and there was an awful lot of heat generated, a lot of criticism, because of course, Elon is Elon. And yesterday, his daughter, for the first time, his just turned 20-year-old daughter, responded. And it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah. She's
She had a bit to say.
Yeah, she's not shy about her feelings either.
Well, I mean, even if you wanted to, like, keep your private life private, if your dad goes on frickin' national media and starts saying bullshit about you, yeah, you're going to want to correct it.
For 2 years. You want to talk about parental abuse? I would say that one of the richest men in the world, on one of the largest social media platforms in the world, spending his entire time going after you, an 18-year-old kid?
The woke mind virus.
And talking about the woke mind virus, that guy's brain dead. Just brain dead.
He's got the brain worms.
Cruelty, holy shit.
They want to insist that this woke mind virus is a thing. They come up with all these. They want to have their own medical system for people. Like, they want to.
Yeah.
They want to come up with their own biblically based diagnoses for any kind of affliction.
It's leprosy.
And then they want to lock us up. So we got the woke mind virus.
I responded to one in one of these threads. I don't remember. It might have been in Vivian's on threads, but I responded to one of these things saying, I caught the woke mind virus when I was 3.5, and woke meant Adelaide Stevenson. I mean, I don't know where the hell these people get their weird impressions about, oh my goodness, this is just something that's brand spanking new. And it's not brand spanking new, people. It isn't.
They just keep rebranding it to try to trick you into buying into it again. Remember PC? Now they're trying to come at us with CRT or with gender affirming care. The people in our comment section, you all ever get out there to our comment section? It's a hoot. So you want to mess with some of the lowest hanging fruit that the gender criticals have to offer? Go to our comment section. They're fun to dunk on.
2 days ago, I'll tease this just a wee bit more. 2 days ago, Vivian posted on her Threads account and pinned the post. Her current pinned post from 2 days ago is, "I look pretty good for a dead bitch." It's like, you go, girl, you go.
Yeah. She actually did a little video clip too. She's written a lot more than what she had to actually verbally say, but she's already, you can tell by listening to her talk, she's more articulate than her father. So that's not like a
anybody could be more articulate. I think that if you have a meeting, if you have a sit down with Jordan B. Peterson, you walk away less articulate than you were when you walked in. Let's put it that way.
Well, Jordan B. Peterson is, he does have a rare skill at word salad, right? Or to change he takes your question and then shifts around the whole context of it and then answers that question instead.
Yeah, that's the old apologist trick.
Yeah.
You do the same thing.
Yeah. What do you mean by when this happens? It's like, well, when and the difference between the interactions about this on Twitter and then the interactions about this on like Threads, for instance, is phenomenal. You can really see how far Twitter has fallen, right? You can really see.
Twitter's a cesspool.
It's
Twitter's just
horrid.
It's a terrible cesspool. I mean, I forget. I think it was Atrios that reposted the original tweet that this had happened that I caught this morning, and it's like, holy shit, and I start reading the things like, she can't know what she's talking about. I believe Elon. I mean, he's probably a disappointed father, and of course they're misgendering her, and they're doing the. It's like, how Elon had to know that kind of shit was going to hit the fan on his own child.
Mm-hmm.
On his own child. We talk about people making a rude remark about Joanne Rowling, and suddenly they are hit with her millions of followers that go over and say, well, all sorts of really ugly things that probably all of us have heard.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't repeat on here, but you know what we're talking about. Yeah.
You know what we're talking about. And, just getting dogpiled by these guys. This man did that deliberately to his daughter. If she was on Twitter, she'd be getting dogpiled.
Yeah.
And she might even have her account suspended. That's why she's not on Twitter,
All right.
It's just beyond belief.
Well, there's going to be more of that later on in the show, so stick around because Steph's going to unpack the whole shebang. You got the video clip and everything that you're going to play too, didn't you say?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to unwrap the whole shebang on that. So stick around for that if you want to play by play. We're going to do things a little bit of different order tonight because Ember actually has a live guest because she is doing a allyship stream to follow up the allyship response video that she did last week. So yeah, she's got the allyship theme running for some good news this week, which I love because we right now, with it being an election year, we really need all the allies we can get. As Steph was saying, she's going to be covering the Elon Musk and Vivian Wilson situation. I'm going to be talking about another fabulous person, like a trans star in our culture that didn't ever get the recognition that they deserve, but we're going to give her some recognition today. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. First, Ember has a new trans person in history, I think, that we're going to check out. So let's get that rolling first.
More history goodies. With lots of good stuff coming up tonight, folks, so stick around.
Yeah, this is just the start of the show, so not that. I keep clicking on the wrong things, though. So eventually I have to get it right, and then we'll do just fine like this.
And now, trans people in history.
Bridget Bond, also known as Bridget St. John, was born in Malta in 1944. She was known for being a singer, actress, and cabaret performer who led a truly unbelievable life. Her whirlwind career started in 1964 at the age of 19. She debuted as a singer and was immediately signed by Tom Littlewood, releasing her first single shortly after. In February, Bridget was at the Heathrow airport to welcome Prince Buster to England, where the famous photo of the two dancing the twist was taken. In April, she performed at the Flamingo Club. In May, she met Sir John Waller, who instantly proposed to her and quickly announced the engagement to the press. Sadly, the arrangement was called off when Waller learned that as a trans woman, Bridget could not bear him an heir which was required for him to access his full inheritance. It wasn't because she was trans, but because of his obligation to have kids, a legal obstacle he bitterly lamented. Unstoppable, Bridget continued her career, performing at the Astor Club and switching management to the Arthur Lowe Agency. She toured Africa, then performed at the Pelican Club in Soho when it was raided by police after reports of nude dancers. Bridget was described in the press as the worst offender. In 1965, she went on tour again, then moved to Madrid. On June 17th, Bridget was in Soho for Billy Graham's visit, where she caused a commotion by climbing on a car to protest his teachings on the sinfulness of miniskirts. That earned her a spot on the Sunday Mirror front page. She kept on being a one-woman firestorm until around 1967 when she took up acting under the name Bridget St. John. She featured in a number of films and played a dancer in a production of Herostratus. Later, Bridget focused on cabaret performances, becoming a supervedette. By 1974, she was rocking shows at the Gay Club, Madrid's first LGBT venue. In her final interview in April 1976, she revealed that she was married and living in Italian Campania, and that in all this time, the world had never even known her real name. After that, she abruptly vanished from public life, and her further exploits are unknown. The famous photo with Prince Buster reappeared in an article in 1979, which inspired the Beat Girl logo, an icon in the punk and ska cultures to this day.
Okay, today I am joined by Maya Adkisson, who is renowned in the community for active and vocal advocacy, with us today to offer some guidance on how we all can make progress toward being better allies to our comrades, specifically dealing with dog whistles. Maya, you consider yourself an ally for a lot of groups. Do you consider allyship necessarily intersectional?
Well, I do kind of join with many people who say that I don't believe an ally is something that you can call yourself. I am happy that many groups do consider me to be an ally, and it's something that I strive to be every day. I think that part of actually being an ally is like the actively pursuing those things for, community and understanding and civil rights. Really. I'm sorry, could you ask your question one more time?
Do you consider allyship to be necessarily intersectional?
Part of me wants to say yes. I would think that a true ally would understand the inherent danger of gatekeeping. We do know of the Barbara Bushes that were, against everything and only came out, pro, pro gay because they had a child, or da 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 da. She probably, I don't know that she had a public stance on trans, but I'm pretty sure she was still against it to her dying day. And I know that they were very racist. I don't, they didn't have a Black child, so I'm pretty sure that kept. I think that it's important to understand that the bigots that are trying to keep someone down in your group are trying to keep down all of those in every group. And so when I think about the intersectional nature of that, I am quick to say yes, but we do see a lot of people who are allies for specific groups and not others. And I think everybody kind of has their own opinions on that.
It's true and really unfortunate to see because it almost automatically becomes hypocritical because you'll see somebody like the Bushes, because of a personal experience, they come to a crossroads where they have to decide whether now that they have a different experience, they go, "Oh, I've been foolish. I should open my mind about all the people I've been oppressing," or if they're just going to say, just this one group is okay because it's my family, but everybody else
Right.
still needs to go to hell. It's kind of wild. It leads to absurdity. But
Indeed.
we can only do so much. We can hope people come to rationality, but it doesn't always work that way. But as for you personally, when did you recognize the importance of being an active ally instead of, like, say, a passive one? What was it that happened that turned that key for you?
Hearing about the issues that others were having, understanding, and also taking a better educating myself on, I guess, the African American past, how Black Americans got to the point where they're at, came with a lot of rhetoric that is recycled when trying to oppress other groups. And it's, especially with the trans community, it's almost lockstep. Really crazy how they just, okay, erase this word, put in trans. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. Also, understanding bigots and bigotry, they just get more emboldened. I say this a lot. You don't want to let any group fall. Like, we can't afford to lose one group because we have seen them get emboldened and then go after the next thing. And you can think about Roe, for example. Roe fell, and then we see this whole like diatribe from Justice Thomas of all people. We're going after everything else, except the one thing that I like, interracial marriage. And I thought it was really interesting that he assumed that they wouldn't come after that in spite of him. But,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah. It's literally what we've been warning him and all the other people on his team this entire time. As soon as you knock down one group, you're potentially the next target.
right. It's like I saw a meme the other day. It was like, first they came for, this group. And even though I wasn't part of that group, I stood with them because I've read the rest of the freaking poem.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, so with fascist movements, they do come after everyone that's not exactly like them. And if that's you in any way, and I say this when I'm talking to cishet white people on the atheist community, if you really think that they're going to allow your favorite atheist to continue to speak on YouTube, I mean, none of us are going to go unscathed. It's going to affect us in some way, shape, or form, especially if you're reading through Project 2025. They're trying to ban porn. You get that. It is, I mean, I hate slippery slope arguments, but there's just no reason that they can't go after everything else after that.
Yeah, well, it's a slippery slope is taking certain steps in a line and then drawing an unfounded final conclusion. This and this will inevitably lead to this. But with Project 2025, they've expressly laid out the steps. We're not drawing absurd conclusions. We're pointing at the handbook they published.
Right. But I think that it may sound like a slippery slope argument to say, well, once they get porn, they're going to come after Iron Raw. And I'm not saying it's going to look exactly like that, but we all see the writing on the wall, right?
I would hope so. There's certainly people who see the writing and still choose to be on that team, possibly for pick-me reasons, possibly, for example, Buck Angel, Blair White. They're hoping that they're the very last ones to get shoved into a camp.
Or maybe they buy themselves
Yeah.
enough time to, make an exit plan. I really don't understand selling out your entire community for money, but
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I
But
and then there's people like that where, it's just very obvious what they're doing. I think that it's the people who are still watching them and doing the things they're doing that don't understand or aren't educating themselves to understand the concept, the natural consequences of their actions, thinking, well, I like the economy under Trump. So, I refuse to believe that he'll actually do all the things that he wants to do. So, I just won't think about it. And these are the people that also get upset that they're not called allies, that they are called bigots. And I understand not wanting to be called a bigot, but if your actions are indistinguishable from bigots, I think it's time to maybe not get as mad and to maybe start asking more questions. Sometimes when people are calling you a bigot, I think a lot of people focus too much on what's in my heart, what are my intentions. And I can't say this enough. Your intentions don't matter. Your actions do. You can intend to never allow me to marry your son, to never invite me over for Thanksgiving dinner, to never have a beer with me in a bar. I am totally cool with that. Don't deny me a bank account, a house, a job. Just fundamental basic things that I need to have, a decent life. The personal thing, I really need people to understand, not that this is allyship per se, but when we're looking for who are my allies and what does this mean? Like, if I want to be an ally, what does this mean to me? I use myself as an example. I am not trans. I'm trying to understand what the trans community is going through, but there are just going to be things that I am not going to be able to get on, just my go-to is, hey, what if I were in this place? And it's just really hard for me to get there. But I know what I would want for myself. I know I'm educated enough to know the things that would help you thrive. I still have love in my heart for people. And I wouldn't want to see anyone suffer. And certainly not because of my actions. So out of love, regardless of whether or not I understand what you're going through, I can still take the actions to make sure that you're okay.
yeah,
And that's what we need people to understand. You don't have to get it. Your intentions don't have to be, love. And if your intentions are love, you still have to do the things. So either way, what people are expecting to see from you, even if your intention is to just not be called a bigot, we need to see the things. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, it's all good. It's your interview. We're here to hear what you have to say. But yeah, there are two prongs to it. There's doing things out of compassion for other people, but there's also that selfish side, the motivated altruism aspect of the reason we form communities, especially diverse communities, like the modern pride flag has black and brown stripes on it, in addition to all the other colors, because we know that if we let one group get knocked down, it makes all of us weaker. We have to stand together because in the words of the founding father guy, if we don't stand together, we sure as hell will hang separately.
Yes.
And
I
so
think
even
people
if you don't
understand.
love other people, Even if you don't love other people, you still have a good reason to be a good ally.
Yeah, I mean, I think people don't really understand. Regardless of what your intentions are, we are together. We are. They are fighting a religious holy war against us. We've been, we are, I mean, we are together. And we need to embrace that, because if one goes down, the rest of us are exposed. It's just like having a chunk of you ripped off, and which is leaving the rest of you exposed, which is harmful. And I don't think people recognize how much that weakens their position.
For sure. But I feel like a lot of people, by this point, they understand the importance of the situation. They get the big picture. But
Maybe.
what they don't know is how to be better allies. They need like a program for what they can do. So, from your own experience, can you describe a situation where you had to challenge someone's homophobic or transphobic behavior or something, and how did you handle it?
Yeah. About a year ago, I think everybody remembers Germania was doing an open hang, and there was a person that jumped in, and he had a series of avatars going on in his was it avatar? Yeah, and that he wasn't showing his face, but in the avatars, a series of pictures. And I remember seeing like a raccoon, a black man, and then there was a white guy, and I wasn't really familiar with who the white guy was, and I thought the raccoon followed by the black guy, and I'm like, it kind of raised an eyebrow, but I wasn't really ready to say, "Hey, what's up with that?" Um, Nitty is the one who said, "Hey, that's the rapist from A Clockwork Orange," and I'm
Oh,
like, "Okay." It's like, okay, I gotta speak. Um, and there are a number of us who were speaking, and we were just yelling at Gert, like, you have to ask the question. Like, we weren't saying boot him, cancel him. It was like, he needs to answer for this. Why would you do raccoon, black guy, rapist from A Clockwork Orange? Why are these things together? And that caused a whole chain of things just that got blown out of proportion. Our motives, our intentions were told to us. We were in, and actually many members of the TransPositions were part of this. We were actually saying, no, that's not my intention. And people would respond, yes, it is. And that, I don't even know how to explain how I felt. It was painful. It was alienating. It was, like, I mean, just like, what do you call it? Like I don't know, just like the mental instability that occurred from it. Just like, wait a minute, what? Like, these are people that I considered to be on good terms with, that smiled in my face, that greeted me every time I came into a chat, that were denying my lived experience. Because largely my problem with it was from my entire life, from 4 decades of what those things symbolized. And again, coupled with a lot of the knowledge of the background and the history of those things as well. And a lot of people did not have that background. So, or the lived, and certainly didn't have the lived experience. There were people who knew the person, and I say this a lot too, because they were nice to them, they must be a nice guy. And I think I say to people a lot, you know, there was actually a Christian that a lot of people used to go to, and they were like, oh, she likes atheists. She must be an atheist ally. And, you know, she was an atheist ally until she banned all the atheists from her side chat because she couldn't convert them. And I'm like, okay. And then everybody was like shocked and like, oh my gosh, like she was so nice. I never thought this would happen. There's so much that goes into allyship. I think it's really important that people understand and listen to people. And just because you don't understand it, don't deny someone their lived experience, even if it's outside of the norm. I was raised upper middle class. I don't have the lived experience as most African Americans. I understand that I had money privilege, and it put me in a certain position just to be okay in life. And there's a lot of white people that didn't get that. So I'm not going to be able to speak from a lived experience standpoint as a lot of people, but that doesn't mean that when I say, no, it's like this, or no, I had this experience, it doesn't negate the statistics. And the statistics don't negate my lived experience. And I think it's really important to understand how to have conversations, understanding that regardless of what you believe to be true, there's no reason, unless a person's giving you like other reasons to believe that they're not telling the truth, like they're not lying to you. If you don't understand, that's one thing. Ask other people, does this make sense to you? Ask clarifying questions. If the person's really lying, like the whole story is not going to make sense, or at some point they're going to contradict themselves. But just to assume, I don't understand this, therefore it's not true. I don't think you understand what you're doing to other people when you do that. And it's just like the very basic thing of being an ally is to listen to the people that you hope to support or want to support, first and foremost. And another one is performative allyship. We don't want you to smile in our face and then have these harmful ideas behind our back. I'm not saying all Republicans are bigots, but I mean, if you voted for Bush, if you voted for Romney, if you voted for McCain, I think you could still call yourself an ally in certain respects. I have a really hard time forgiving people who voted for Trump the first time. A second and third time around,
he did make it
forgivable.
pretty clear. But on the flip side, people do grow, people do change. I've met a lot of people who did vote for Trump and then went, I made a very stupid mistake. I'm not doing that again.
Yes, that is showing allyship. But people, the second time where people were considering voting for him now, like you can't do that and call yourself an ally. I'm sorry. It just, we need people who stand up to the plate. And to get back to your question, that is what Gurr did. Gurr didn't understand why these pictures were problematic. Gurr didn't understand why we were, raging in the chat, like ask the question, this is problematic. He's like, I don't, what's the problem? It's a raccoon. What does that mean? Google it. He did. And then inside of a minute, it was just like, oh, whoa, like, dude, I don't know what your intentions are, but you have to change that avatar. That is allyship, right? I mean, without doing anything else. I can see how this would offend people. And I need you to not do that, at least on my show. I mean, it's, again, not trying to cancel people, not trying to tell you what to do, what you do in your own private life. I mean, we wish you would be a non-performative ally. We wish you would practice this everywhere. But If you want to call your best friend a slur behind, it's totally fine. But maybe when a creator says, "Hey, don't say slurs on a show," you just respect it. You know, because there are things that hurt other people, and I was saying this a few weeks ago. People don't just wake up one morning and decide to be angry at cartoons or words. When people are upset, it's coming from a place of hurt. And you insisting on doing the hurtful things is really you saying that, I'm willing to give you PTSD because it makes me comfortable.
Yeah, it's easier for me, so to hell with however much it affects you. It's it's very troubling. Although it is good to see that, sometimes Gur sets a good example. Like when a person says, okay, you don't understand, look it up and then do that thing and it's better. But the raccoon thing, that kind of leans into our second topic, which is the dog whistles. For anybody who's not familiar, can you explain how dog whistles differ from overtly discriminatory language?
So dog whistles, oh gosh. Oh, what's the term I'm looking for? It's more of the passive aggressive or the do you know the word I'm looking for? Sorry, long day at work.
Oh, I relate.
Microaggressions,
Ah,
where people are making fun of you to your face, and you just may be too ignorant to know because you don't hang out in those areas of 4chan. But what they're trying to do is rally the people who do know what they mean. Where are my friends? Where are my people? How do we hurt these people together? Like that is what a dog whistle is and what it hopes to do. I and it's so hard. I mean, just I can't remember who the group is, but there actually is like a list of like phrases, hand gestures, even. I remember, I think was it the OK sign that made it, and which is when I found out about it because it made the news. It's like the OK sign is offensive now. I was like, holy crap! And I was like, oh well, this is a handy document. I wish I remembered who came out with it, but you could probably actually Google. Is the OK sign offensive? And it'll should pop up on the second page, on the first page of Google, and the second page, not it never gets seen. But just to try
Anti-Defamation
to,
League.
thank you. That makes sense. See, yeah, thank you. It's just so hard. And the thing with dog whistles is that they morph. And once they become well known, they will be taken out of favor for something else, usually something that's trending. And then you have to learn new things all over again. And I don't want people to think that, oh, I have to memorize all dog whistles to be a good ally. I need you to hear the rhetoric. What is it that they're saying? Are they sowing seeds of doubt? Are they trying to other a group? More than likely, if the answer to that is yes, there's some dog whistles that you're just unaware of in there. And it really doesn't matter. Your goal should always be, hey, not cool. These people are, deserving of respect. Whether it's somebody saying something simple like, oh, that's so gay. And just stop the conversation. Why is that gay? How is that gay? What do you mean by that? Is there maybe a better word we can use? Letting people understand that that rhetoric like that isn't allowed in that space is insanely helpful to the group.
Yeah, it's similar to there a meme from a few years ago where somebody I forget the exact details, but a fellow makes a very sexist joke in a workplace, and all the guys laugh, and the girl in the group looks a little embarrassed. But then one of the guys speaks up and goes, "Wait, why is that funny?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
stand up and say something. Just ask the question. For
Right.
sure.
And I mean, you don't even have to show. I know a lot of people are very uncomfortable with conflict. It You don't even have to engage in the conversation necessarily. I tell people all the time, there's like so much power in just saying, "Hey, not cool, dude," and you know, not engaging with that line of conversation, cutting it off. It sets a tone. It puts people on notice, especially when it's done in front of other people. Like, I think people understand when they're being edgy, and when you do anything that puts them on notice that this is across the line, this is unacceptable, they're embarrassed, their ego, their embarrassment will do the rest of the work for you, usually.
When they have
I
shame.
Yeah, I being an HR director, I try to make sure that my managers are aware of this too. Just there's a big push for managers to be allies and provide inclusive behavior, inclusive environments, because oh my gosh, you have no idea how much worker productivity is impacted when people feel comfortable being themselves.
Oh, I
Oh,
know. I
maybe you
know.
would.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I can, to tangent, because it's not a show with the two of us on it without tangents. Just the other day, one of my coworkers was handing me a pile of papers and talking to another coworker about handing me the pile of papers, and said, "I'm just going to give this to him." I mean, her. And that was it. And, slips happen. I know she's not bad intention, so I just,
Right.
no issue from me. When I came back to the terminal, she took me aside and, like, intensely apologized. And I'm like, "What the hell? Where did this come from?" And she's like, "I just want you to know, I don't mean to offend. I'm so sorry." And I'm like, whoa. So a little bit later, when she wasn't around, I talked to the manager who witnessed her doing the apology. And I'm like, "What the hell was up with her?" And she was like, "Well, after you left, I heard what she said earlier, and she did correct it. But I took her aside and I said, you have to pay attention to what you're saying to people. It's really important. Focus," And she didn't have to do that. The
Yeah.
situation was all settled. And I feel slightly bad, because this wasn't a bad person that she was
Right.
singling out. It was just a mistake. But at the same time, to know your boss has your back to that degree means so much. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really important.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, now I'll set my soapbox aside and get us back on track here. Knowing common dog whistles, knowing discriminatory behavior, bigots, like you said earlier, bigots are crafting new terms and euphemisms all the time. So how
Mhm.
can we identify the subtle discriminatory language, the coded behaviors and things?
And again, for those, for people that are listening, and I know a lot of the people that are here now, but if you're in the future listening back and you're just like, wow, how do I be an ally? This seems overwhelming. Again, it's not, you're going to pick up things if you stay engaged. And if I were to give like a list of really common things that happen today, they would be so outdated.
Mhm.
If we were to revisit them this time next year. I want you to focus on what they're saying. The focus should really be on the othering of a group. Um, the Them saying they, when speaking of all gay people, all trans people, all Black people, all women, um, when they're treating a group as a monolith. And I was saying to one of my friends, just growing up in Illinois, it was really subtle, like the racism, to the point of where, like, I had to get out of there because I felt like the Black people were buying into it. Um, there was a way that Black people acted. There was an education level. There were interests that Black people had that white people didn't have. There are ways that Black people talk that white people, don't talk, or, there are ways that Black people cook that white people can't cook. And it was just understood that, some things weren't necessarily racist, because we all know that Black people aren't as good as white people. And it was just kind of this underlying thing, like, I got really upset at a coworker for telling me that I was pretty for a Black girl. And I kind of cussed him out in the kitchen, and then I went out and I was ranty to my friends, and they're like, yeah, but you got to see it from his point. I'm like, I really don't, though. Why would these words come out of your mouth? And just said it, I mean, like, that no one understood. It's just like, well, obviously Black people aren't as hot as white people. And like the message, like, that I was just supposed to understand that and be okay with what he said because it's just understood. And there weren't any dog whistles. He was giving me a compliment. Was it a microaggression? Hell yeah. It was unacceptable, especially in the workplace. I didn't say anything to my bosses. I didn't, it wasn't anything like that. I don't know. He's pissed off. So he's, probably just that bitch that can't take a compliment now. Or, that angry Black woman that is going to, always, be that, in the back of his mind, now all Black women are mean because, Maya threw a fit, which confirmed, a stereotype over compliment. Not even being open to understanding why what you said is problematic. Not being open to, for my friends, who I still call friends, to not, for your first line of defense being to apologize, not even apologize, to, I'm gonna say side, they understood what I was saying, but to try to explain or to make it seem all right that what this person said was okay. Why are we even here? It should just be unacceptable. And these are the things where you support your friends and you don't have to pull, I love what your boss did, perfect, kudos. She needs to set a tone that this is unacceptable behavior and that it should be valued, so that, even though a lot of people, when you're like, oh, it's okay, you're just saying that, like, I don't need you to be ashamed. I understand that you slipped. That's what's going through your mind. When they hear it's okay, they may be misconstruing it to think, oh, it's okay if you misgender me. So for your boss to say, I want to make this explicitly clear that it's not okay to misgender her, and I want you to think, that's going to make her think even, more about it and be less likely to make that slip in the future. And it's just little things like that, just people who have a back, that, where it's allyship, like these little things that people do. And I'm not going to say my friends aren't Black allies. They were just coming from, they were middle class white people. They didn't have to live my experience, couldn't put themselves in my shoes at that moment, and could relate to the bigot, wanted to calm me down. And that was their go-to. And I know what they were doing, but if your goal is to be an ally, you have to take different approaches.
Yeah, that's a really good note. Is like a lot of people do have good intentions, but they don't know because they don't have the lived experience. Like they'll like you said, they'll be friendly towards you, but they just don't know when a thing is a problem. And
Right.
sometimes, they have the rose-colored glasses, and even when you try to tell them it's a problem, they just don't seem to get it. So for people who want to be better allies, how can they go about trying to be better educated, trying to stay educated about what other groups are facing?
All right, let's go back to the GER example. There were people, okay, first of all, if someone is making bigoted statements and you're relating more to the bigot than you are to the people who are upset, that's a problem. And so that it's just very easy that I did myself. There were people I found out that there were that the trans community was a thing. I was an adult before I realized that. I thought, I mistakenly thought, like many Americans, that trans is drag. That there, it took me a while to even separate the two in my mind, and that that there are women, even cis women, that dress up in drag because they like, and do drag shows with cis men, and just because they're theatrical, like they like the style of it as an actor or a singer or as a performer, I guess. It took a lot for me to come out of my stereotypes, and it's been years and I'm still growing, just being open. But initially, this is something that I had in my head when it's just like, wait, drag and trans are different. What is that? This is me saying, okay, I recognize that I'm relating to bigots, which means that there's more I need to learn. We're talking 5 years ago, God. I didn't even know where to go to begin to learn what is a good source. That was so difficult for me. I was very lucky to find people like Jenny Morgan, and then there was Anti-Ordinary, who's problematic in her own right, but she was trans and very informative. Very informed on a lot of like the trans issues and a lot of the things I learned from her about trans being a fetish and why that was problematic and having I could have this conversation with this person I didn't even necessarily like, but I could use her knowledge to make myself a better and more inclusive person. And I think that when we are talking about being better allies, we need to notice our weaknesses, look for people who can point us in the right direction, be open to learning. And when things don't conform to your view of reality, rather than say, no, this is fine, I'm going to continue to think this way or say these things, be open to hearing why they're problematic. And even if you don't, at the end of the day, even if you don't agree, I think that this is silly and that, I can't relate. It's totally fine. But can you do things to make others more comfortable? Can you do things to embrace the civil rights of all people? What are those things? Because at the end of the day, nobody's asking you to bring every Black person, every trans person, every woman, home, to Thanksgiving dinner or, to have a drink with them at a bar. We're just asking, please don't vote our rights away. We want to have the same liberties as you want. And in a country where the us versus them is rich versus poor, it would only behoove you to stand with those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Being open to other perspectives is the key. Well, thank you so much, Maya, for taking the time today. If you
Thank
out
you for
there
inviting me.
want, sure. If you want to see more from Maya, including the world famous Bad Science Sunday show, you can do that at youtube.com/@Maya Adkisson.
Thank you. And might I say, you are looking really fine and fierce in that hair.
Why, thank you.
Hello, and welcome to the TransPositions. I'm going to spotlight a trans person who's made a cultural or societal impact for us today. The person I'm looking at today is actually a composer, which you probably you may have heard of, but you probably haven't heard of. But they hold on just a second. Okay. Yeah, all right, here we go. So, all right, thank you so much for joining me on the TransPositions today. We're going to be looking at a composer of the mid-20th century. She's actually still with us, so she's quite retired in her 80s. I guess that qualifies her to be running for president, but not much else. But there was a point in time where music was kind of turning over to like modern rock music and stuff, And then all of a sudden, this album comes out of nowhere. This Switched on Bach, where they changed it up, and she used synthesis, because this is before synthesized music was a thing, and she made this whole album using a synthesizer with tones to create Bach symphonies, and using what they call a Moog synthesizer. This composer's name was Wendy Carlos. Now, Wendy Carlos won a Grammy. And Wendy Carlos actually won 3 Grammys. Born in 1939, the musician studied music and physics at Brown University from 1958 to 1962, and graduated from Columbia University with a master's degree in music composition before meeting Robert Moog, whose invention of the Moog synthesizer in 1964 changed the course of her life. The musician won 3 Grammys in 1970 for her groundbreaking 1968 album, Switched on Bach, in which a compilation of Bach's works was performed on a Moog's groundbreaking instrument. The electronic abilities the electronic album flung the musical invention into the mainstream, and it was soon adopted by the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and the Doors, among many others. Carlos even developed her own adaptations closely alongside with the synth movement, finessing the instrument's filter bank, pitching slide controls, and a touch-sensitive keypad. Now, Wendy often appeared in TV and in interviews in drag. She would put on fake sideburns and pretend that she was a cis man. This is a interview that anyway, yeah, she takes these tones, right, and builds music with them. She's showing the basic original style of synthesizer, where the Moog synthesizer, where you had to switch out which board you were in. Actually, have an old synthesizer somewhere around here, but anyway, alongside the musical revolution, Carlos was going through a transformation of her own. Over the course of the decades, she underwent her transition and came out to the world. Much like many members of the LGBTQ plus community, Carlos first came out to close friends and family as early as 1968. In the public eye, however, she remained closeted, pasting sideburns on her face for interviews. This also meant that she was not yet out when she received her prestigious Grammy win. In 1979, Carlos gave an exclusive interview to Playboy magazine, reflecting on their identity as a trans woman and their relationship with music and more. I remember being convinced I was a little girl, not knowing why my parents didn't see it clearly, she told the magazine. I didn't understand why they insisted on treating me like a little boy. Yeah, and here she is, not dressed in drag. Yeah, I mentioned Clockwork Orange. She did the sound for the audio engineering for Clockwork Orange. But the one that stands out to me is The Shining. She did Kubrick's The Shining. At the beginning, the intro part. That's what she's. That's her track that stands out to me. It might be called The Rockies. But there's a part at the beginning of The Shining where the family's driving up through the mountains and it plays. But there is, at the beginning, the main theme, like when the title cards are playing and stuff. There's no audio from the... Okay, yeah, well, I was just play. I didn't want to play too much of it anyway because this is from BBC, but I'll play just so you can hear her talk.
It's possible to recreate music from its component parts, its tones.
Well, you're looking at one of the very first 8-track machines. We used it for switched-on Bach, well-tempered synthesizer, right through a good half of Clockwork Orange.
Wendy Carlos, in her studio in Greenwich Village, is one of the pioneers of synthesized sound. Her controversial...
I love that she has her cats crawling all over. She actually had she has 2 cats there named Pause and Play. Those are her cats' names. That's pretty clever, I thought. Yeah, but this is the same video. Just let me pull it up so it's full screen.
Tempered synthesizer, right through good half of Clockwork Orange.
Wendy Carlos, in her studio in Greenwich Village, is one of the pioneers of synthesized sound. Her controversial versions of classics, created entirely electronically, put machine-made music on the map.
Yeah, and like from here forward, I basically changed the way that we produce music. Right? This was a really big deal. I mean, there's a reason why she won Grammys for it, but it goes beyond that. It changed the way that music was produced in general, the way that that sound studios were set up, for instance. They no longer now you can plug your instruments directly into this tone machine that picks up the tones from the vibrations that you're playing. Yeah, but why Wendy or the Sideburns? Just got a article just the other day. That's what brought it back to my attention. I read this article back in like February, and it's like, oh, that's really neat. But then this came out recently, so I wanted to talk about it. Yeah, why trans electronic music pioneer Wendy Carlos appeared on the BBC disguised as a cis man. The electronic music pioneer Wendy Carlos appeared on the BBC in 1970 disguised as a man, while still in the closet as a trans woman, and many people are confused about why she did it. The BBC Archive X account, formerly Twitter, regularly shares the clips of Carlos demonstrating how to use the Moog synthesizer, which she helped inventor and engineer Robert Moog develop. While many on social media were confused about whether her appearance was pre-transition or whether she had been pushed by the BBC to dress as a man, the truth was actually that Carlos voluntarily disguised herself as she wasn't ready to publicly come out as transgender. Wendy Carlos helped bring electronic music to the mainstream. The clip also led many other people to want to know more about Wendy Carlos. So here are some key facts about the trailblazing, talented musician. Wendy Carlos was born in 1939 and began studying music at the age of 6 when she started taking piano lessons. She went on to study music and physics at Brown University in Rhode Island, and then completed a master's in composition at Columbia in New York, where she began exploring electronic music. While in New York, she met Robert Moog and helped him develop the famous Moog synthesizer, which was released in 1964. In 1968, Carlos released her album, Switch on Bach, which comprised pieces of Bach performed on the Moog synthesizer. and it was an unexpected hit. Yeah, like it was the first classic album to, I think it actually says that, yeah, Switched on Bach was one of the first classic albums to sell 500,000 copies, and eventually went platinum, bringing electronic music to the mainstream. You know, and that's what I was just saying about her cats. Yeah, I love it when Wendy Carlos was pioneering multiple new techniques for creating synthetic music, that her cats were hanging out in her studio like, okay, but we do get pets. The electronic music pioneer began her transition in 1968. Wendy Carlos told Playboy in 1979, "My awareness of being a..." Oh, this is the same quote that we read earlier. "I didn't understand why they insisted on treating me like a boy, but I wanted them to love me, and I felt that if I behaved the way I wanted to, I would lose their love. So I began hiding my feelings at a very early age." Feels, I can relate to that for sure. In 1966, Carlos got in touch with early trans advocate Harry Benjamin, who I think we've talked about a couple times before. I think we talked about it. We talked about Benjamin on the Lynn Conway coverage. So, yeah, it's something we've he's a person that comes up a lot because he was a pioneer in the area of sexual reassignment procedures. Yeah. Anyway, Harry Benjamin, who began advising her on her transition. 2 years later, the same year that Switched on Bach was released, she began hormone therapy and came out to a few people close to her. As the hormone therapy began to cause changes in her appearance, it became clear that her debut album was a phenomenal success and that she would be approached by the media, fearful that the public would I don't know why I'm having such a hard time reading tonight. I've been reading about Wendy Carlos all evening, and now I'm tripping over my own tongue. Fearful of being publicly seen as a woman, Carlos desperately tried to disguise herself as a man for TV appearances, like the 1970 appearance on the BBC by donning a wig and sticking on sideburns. Yeah, she's a very pretty lady, so hard to cover that up with a fake wig and sideburns when you're gorgeous like that, sweetheart. Wendy Carlos came out publicly in 1979. Wendy Carlos came out publicly as a trans woman, describing her career, upbringing, and transition in an interview with LGBTQ+ activist Arthur Bell, published by Playboy. She described telling friends and acquaintances and said the best reaction was when people are not thrown by it at all. Carlos said, "They just go on and say, gee, that's fascinating. As I was saying, that's the nicest experience." Describing the public reaction to her coming out in a 1985 interview with People, she said, "The public turned out to be amazingly tolerant, or if you wish, indifferent. There had never been any need of this charade to have taken place. It has proven a monstrous waste of time." Now, she did a lot of interviews throughout the 80s. She did the soundtrack to Tron, the futuristic 3D world movie. She has a very distinct sound. I can't play any of it, obviously, for copyright reasons, but she has a lot of credits in being influential as well as actually composing her own stuff. But mostly she's famous for Clockwork Orange, The Shining, and Tron. So, yeah, very Kubrick-centric, but she gives it that Kubrick sound, right? But I do want to make people aware that of this Wendy Carlos, a biography. This is an unauthorized biography, and on her website, Wendy has spoken out against it, saying that biography is not her true life. This is just in 2020 here. It says, bogus bio alert. Please be aware that there is a purported biography on me just released. It belongs in the fiction shelf. No one ever interviewed me, nor anyone I know. There's zero fact checking. Don't recognize myself anywhere in there. Weird, sloppy, dull, and dubious. It's hardly an objective academic study as it pretends to be. This slim, mean-spirited volume is based on several false premises. All of it is speculation taken out of context. The key sources are other people's write-ups of interviews done for magazine articles. There's simply no way to know what's true or not. Nothing is firsthand. The book is presumptuous. Pathetically, it accepts as factual a grab bag of online urban legends, including anonymous axes to grind. The author imputes things she doesn't understand, misses the real reason for what was done or not done. She is in way over her head, outside of any area of expertise. It even defames my dear deceased parents. Shame. Well, now you know, and have the victim's honest reaction. Wish there were more one could do about needless personal attacks, but we have to understand how essential freedom of speech is, even when it permits such abuse. Have dealt with stereotyping most of my life, a pretty tough hide by now, but aren't there new, more interesting targets? Unless you consider academic books a form of contact sport, you might really want to reconsider your time and money. Wendy Carlos, August 2020. Now, most of her website is outdated and pretty old. The What's New section ends in 2009, so she hasn't really kept up to date on this. If you were interested, it's wendycarlos.com. She does have journal entries, little entries from 2001 up through 2009 on this website. This website also has the discography. Hold on, let's go back. Yeah, it has the discography where you can see other works that she's put out and such. So, yeah. I just wanted to spotlight Wendy for just a moment. She's given a lot of herself to our music industry, right? To the types of sounds available to put into our music and to put emotion into our music. Gosh, I wish I could play the intro to The Shining if you could just feel it, because there's something about the way her compositions are, and she talks about not there. She talks about it in this interview a little bit. And I'm gonna let me just pull this a little bit up. She talks about this cool instrument that they innovated here.
And this is it here. And I'll show you what it sounds like. You can see that it's immediately different from any keyboard instrument. It's much more vocal, intimate, performing, almost like a violin sound. It takes an awful lot of practice and skill to do this. I'm very out of practice. And you can actually get to the point where you can perform fairly nice, substantial musical lines with this. I'll play for you right now, right off of the computer, which we use for everything for audio nowadays, the cue that we include.
Look at them big old monitors, them big old RCT monitors.
In the demo tape that we first sent to Stanley for The Shining. And this is the valse triste in an arrangement I did using the Surcon as the solo instrument. You'll hear it right away.
Yeah, pretty at the time groundbreaking stuff, right? Pretty amazing person. And just in general, I think that she lived a fascinating life. I would love to read a real biography about her, but apparently she doesn't do interviews. She's still kicking though, so maybe we can get an exclusive interview on the Transposition sometime in the future. Wouldn't that be amazing? You know. Anyhow, I'm gonna wrap up my segment right here. Thank you for sticking with me and learning a little bit about composer Wendy Carlos today. This has been Bree McCune with the Transpositions.
Hey everybody, I'm Stephanie. I'm here, Stephen. And we're gonna Steph a little bit about Elon Musk and his daughter Vivian. But first I'm gonna have to mute the YouTube broadcast so that I don't drive myself to distraction while talking to you all. Anyway, yeah, there's that. We're still hoping to hear from Carly. I don't know. She's on location and broadcasting through her iPhone. And if she comes in, I'm going to stop talking and let her get on with a report from Canton, Ohio, and let that happen. But let's just jump right into this mayhem, because it is truly mayhem. Let's look at what Elon had to say about while talking with Jordan B. Peterson, the esteemed Toronto native. Well, actually, I'm sorry, and he's a native of Alberta. No, I don't want to cast aspersions on Ontario, who did pull his license to practice psychology. So we'll just let that one slide. Anyway, here's the interview. I'm going to do my best to silence Elon, and please let me know if you can't hear anything, because these things sometimes do go awry. We'll see. All right. So here we are. Elon. Oh, damn it. I missed it. Twice. Dead named. Huh? All right, thanks folks in the chat. Thanks Bree for letting me know that there's no audio here. Let me see what I can do about that. Because it's actually kind of good because, yeah, he dead named his daughter twice. See if I can fix that quickly. I think I can. But I never know if I can or I can't. Let's see. Just try this quickly. Can you hear it now? Oh, I know why. You hear it now?
I was essentially tricked into signing documents.
Great. Now you can hear it, and I'm still going to try to avoid the. I'm going to try to avoid the dead naming. God damn it.
I mean, well, it sort of like the nameless issue. It happened to one of my older boys, where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This was before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. You know, I was told, oh, Xavier might commit suicide if he.
That right from the outset.
I'm sorry, I wasn't quick enough.
Incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
It won't stop till that happens.
Yeah.
It'll just go underground. So yeah, right. It's not going to stop. Yeah. Okay, so I see. So that's.
So I was tricked into doing this, it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and so I lost my son essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah.
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead. Killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah.
Killed by the woke mind virus. So essentially my son is dead. All right, well, here's the thing. Let's hear from his son, who first, this was, she finally spoke out on her Threads account about this. Let's be clear. We all know how long Elon has been going on and going off on his own child for 2 years. Vivian is 20 now. Her name is Vivian Jenna Wilson. Her father has been going on about this for 2 years, since she was 18 years old, and she hasn't said a word. Hasn't said a word. Ten hours ago, she said a word. But before
fine,
that,
actually.
she
And I
oops. Before that, she had this to say.
am formulating a response and whatnot. It's being worked on. It's being worked on. Just hold your goddamn horses for 5 more seconds, okay? I promise it's getting worked on. Hi, it is Vivian Jenna Wilson. I'm just going to come on here and say that I'm doing well. I'm doing fine, actually. And I am formulating a response and whatnot. It's being worked on. It's being worked on. Just hold your goddamn horses for 5 more seconds, okay? I promise it's getting worked on. Hi, it is Vivian.
And then she did this. You know, I look pretty good for a dead bitch. She posted 2 days ago, just after Elon and Jordan decided to get together and go after a 20-year-old young woman because she wasn't the apple of her daddy's eye. She goes, there's a lot of stuff I need to debunk, which I will get to, don't worry. But I want to start with what I find the funniest, which is the notorious slightly autistic tweet. This is going to be a bit, so bear with me. I won't criticize. She should have been bear, like in the woods kind of bear, but that's okay. You know, I don't want to be a pedant, but I am a pedant, so bear with me. Elon Melon, I like to call him Melon. How about you? He's suitable for scooping. Dead name, was born gay and slightly autistic, 2 attributes that contribute to gender dysphoria. Oh, shit. Melon, whatever the fuck your name is. At least you think that gender dysphoria might be real, except it might be a figment of the woke mind virus, except it might be, I can't compute. I knew that from when I am. What the hell? I'll quote the asshole. When he was about 4 years old and he would pick out clothes for me to wear. A 4-year-old is picking out her daddy's clothes. Come on. Like a jacket, and tell me it was fabulous. As well as his love of musicals and theater. But he was not a girl. I don't have to do my take because Vivian has hers. It's a good one. This is entirely false. Like, literally, none of this ever happened. Ever. I don't even know where he got this from. My best guess is that he went to the Milo Yiannopoulos School of Gay Stereotypes and just picked some at random and said, hey, good enough, in a last-ditch effort to garner sympathy points when he is so obviously wrong, even in his own fucking story. Let's keep going. I did not have a love of musicals and theater when I was 4 because, I was fucking 4. I did not know what these things were. My earliest real experience with musicals was when my twin brother had a Hamilton phase in 8th or 9th grade and overplayed it so much in the car to the point for a long time I swore off the entire genre. I never picked out jackets for him to wear, and I most certainly was most certainly not calling them fabulous, because literally, what the fuck? I did not use the word fabulous when I was 4, because once again, I would like to reiterate, I was 4. I'm going to take a little break here and say, trans kids don't use the obvious literal language to describe to their parents, most important people in their lives, what they mean by trans. They don't even know what trans is. What they tell their parents, what I told my mother was, I'm a girl. And I didn't even say that the first time, was basically correcting her when she said good boy and I said no girl. 3 and 4-year-olds don't use this kind of language. 3 and 4-year-olds don't pick out other people's wardrobes. 3 and 4-year-olds don't even know what gender is, but they have an internal sense of it. Whether they're cisgender or transgender, they do have an internal sense. And the discordance grows from that fixing point. That's my experience. May not be everyone's. But it was clearly Vivian's as well. And this is the difference between a child who was born in the 2000 aughts and a child who was born in the 1950s. A child who was born in the 2000 aughts has access to, their parents have access to, a lot that's been learned in 60 years, in 70 years. And I'm glad they do. Mel and Husk would love to have raised his child as I was raised. And I love my parents, and they loved me. But they didn't know. Mel and Husk here does. Because, as I would like to reiterate, I was 4. This is so obvious, I don't even think it warrants explanation, but apparently people believe this nonsense, so here I am. This entire thing is completely made up, and there's a reason for this. He doesn't know what I was like as a child because he quite simply wasn't there. And in the little time that he was, I was relentlessly harassed for my femininity and queerness. Obviously, he can't say that. So I've been reduced to a happy little stereotype gang along to use at his discretion. I think that says a lot about how he views queer people and children in general. As for if I'm not a woman, sure, Jan, whatever you say, I'm legally recognized as a woman in the state of California, and I don't concern myself with the opinions of those who are below me. This is a self-assured child, and let's be honest, a privileged child. If this child hadn't been a child of privilege, she might not have had access to the psychological care that she obviously has had access to, that allowed her to get to this point and say that. And that's the tragedy of laws and attitudes that put that kind of care off limits to all but the most privileged. Obviously, Elon can't say the same because in a ketamine-fueled, this is my personal favorite bit, in a ketamine-fueled haze, he's desperate for attention and validation from an army of degenerate, red-pilled incels and pick-me's who are quick to give it to him. Go touch some fucking grass. You know, this kid has in a few short posts taken apart the whole idea that we don't know who we are. We know who we are. We desperately crave, we desperately want people to accept us. Simple acceptance is good enough. Simple acceptance was good enough for Victoria. I'm sorry, for Vivian. Simple acceptance was good enough. Simple acceptance was good enough to keep her quiet for 2 years while her father railed on and on. Her powerful, worlds crossing, going to fucking Mars parent excoriated her, tore her down. You know, let's just say I don't think that I don't really think that Elon is an exemplary parent. I don't think he's an exemplary human being. Usually it's a good idea to listen to people, let them tell their stories, and try to have some empathy, try to learn something from someone. You know, Amber and Maya were talking earlier about what it takes to be an ally. What it takes to be an ally is to listen, to use empathy. We opened the show with Moms for Liberty basically saying empathy should not be even addressed as a topic in the public schools. So what are you then teaching to children? Oh, the schoolyard bully is actually the ideal for a society. That's what you're teaching when you throw away the idea of empathy that is absolutely the cornerstone of any social species. And in this discussion, we are brought to the forefront by powerful people who lack empathy and who are resentful that because they lack the empathy to let their children teach them empathy, that's where we live. Folks, this is not a way to go. This is not what anyone desires. I don't know what the transgender agenda is or what transgenderism is, but I know what humanity is and I know what it isn't. The fact that transgender people are here and are practicing a different way of being human means that talk to us and understand us and have a dialogue with us so that your humanity can be enriched. And for the transpositions, this is Stephanie Helms, just Stephan.
Here we go.
Hold on.
It's too late. We're already on screen now. Everybody can see us. Everybody can see our mistakes. Whatever we do now is documented live on YouTube.
We're just trying to mix it up, and hopefully we're hoping to get Carly back in here for a sports segment. But I do have something here in pocket that I hope
because we saw Carly pop in. She's popped in a few times, or a couple times during the thing with Ember and Maya. She couldn't stick around, and now I don't know if she's gonna be able to make it back or not. But the show must go on, so we're gonna. Steph's got some sports stuff for us here.
I think I do. What I wanted, I have a piece that I saved. Pocket, if you can find it, on the invisible toll of sex testing at the Olympics. So let me get this.
Yeah.
Let me get this puppy up here. All right. So this is an article that came out on 16. Of course. Well, today, in Paris, the Olympic torch was carried in by the runners, and they lit the thing, and everything's happening. So the 2004 Summer Olympic Games are underway in Paris, France. But I'm going to read this quickly, run through this article, and the article is on the invisible toll of sex testing at the Olympics by Michael Waters and Slate on the 16th. In 1948, Foytje Dilemma seemed to be well on her way to international fame. Born in a poor village near Friesland in the Netherlands, Dilemma grew up in a bed she shared with 3 of her sisters. To earn money for her family, she began working as a domestic servant even before she was a teenager. By the time she was 22, however, she had set out on a path to bigger things. That year, she shocked the sports watchers when she ran the 100-meter sprint in 12.7 seconds. Dutch official whispered she could reach the Olympics. Her first major event 2 years later was the European Championships, a pre-Olympic event governed by the Track and Field Association, the International Amateur Athletic Federation, today's World Athletics. It used to be, in sailing, it used to be International Yacht Racing Union, and now it is World Sailing, so, it's changed. Language changes. How about that? Today's world. Dilemmas seem likely to sweep. There's just one problem. The IAAF had a new policy on the books requiring that all women receive a doctor's note validating that they were female before they could compete. The test was crude and hardly scientific, involving stripping before a gynecologist. By the way, this regime continued into the 80s and 90s. When Dilemma refused to sit for a sex test, the Dutch Athletic Union summarily disqualified her. A representative told the press that due to a medical condition, Foytje would never be able to compete again. It would take decades for Dutch sports fans to discover their rising star disappeared from sports, not because of an injury or an illness, but because of a sex test. To protect her privacy, Dutch officials had simply kept the incident quiet. Today, you're probably familiar with a few high-profile athletes who've been disqualified from Olympics over sex testing. Caster Semenya, perhaps Dutee Chand. But the athletes whose name we know about represent only a tiny sliver of the women and trans feminine people disqualified under the Olympics sex testing policies. Stories like Dilemmas are much more widespread than we realize. Cases of athletes on the rise who are quietly sidelined out of sports for failing or refusing a sex test. The evidence in the archive suggests, in fact, goodness me, I lost my place. That sex testing had bearing on not just the Olympics. These mandates actively shaped who could make it, even in the lower rungs of the sporting world. Countless women like Dilemma were pushed aside long before they could even get to that hallowed highest competition. And as we approach the 33rd Games this summer in Paris, that history of disqualification should give us pause. Sex testing has not only denied immensely talented athletes a chance to appear before fans, but also enshrined a troubling precedent of surveillance into sport itself. I think it goes pretty deep. Lindsay Parks Piper, a professor of sports management at the University of Lynchburg, and the author of Sex Testing, Gender Policing in Women's Sports, told me over the phone, I have concerns that there are a lot more individuals who are disqualified before they even make it to the Olympics. Part of the difficulty is knowing is the total secrecy of disqualifications. After sports federations publicly expelled Poland's Kulubskaya, I'm sorry about the pronunciation, Eva, or I think it's Eva, I think the W is a V, in 1967 for failing a chromosome test, they adopted a policy of strict confidentialities. Athletes would be tested ahead of the Olympics, and if they failed, they would be sent home without comment. The rule was about protecting privacy, but it had the effect of rendering the real scope of sex testing invisible. When I started researching my book, The Other Olympians, on the origins of sex testing and the way it informs the contemporary battle over trans and intersex people in sport, I'd hoped to pull together data on just how many athletes have been affected by these policies. I was surprised to learn that no such number exists. We do have the estimate based on population level genealogical patterns and not hard evidence that 1 in every 504 Olympic athletes has failed a sex test, but the IOC has never publicly acknowledged how many athletes it disqualified for failing to meet its highly subjective and ever-changing definition of female. What seems like a simple question, how many people had their careers cut short because of sex tests, is apparently unanswerable. Maybe we can cut the conversation short here. Maybe we can now talk to how difficult it is. I'm gonna go back to staffing here. Maybe now we can talk about a little bit anyway about how difficult it is. How difficult it is when conducting studies on a very small population to present authoritative data. I mean, the N of Olympic athletes is 10,000 in any given quadrennium, right? That's the N of the total number of athletes. The N of transgender people in the world is 0.5% is a high estimate. 0.2% is a low estimate. So if that N is anywhere near accurate, you have a very small sample size. And what do the gender crits always say? Bad sample size, no control group, all of this stuff. You're making impossible demands on the studies involving sociology, involving medicine. And in medicine, some of those studies might be unethical when we're talking about treatment. And, it's incredibly frustrating to have these arguments
Today,
back and forth with people who have an agenda that really don't care about the answer. They really don't care because they really don't care about transgender people. They don't want to listen to us. They don't want to hear about us. They want us and transgenderism to disappear. There was a commenter in the side chat of the Transatlantic Call-In show today who said, as a way of hand-waving away Michael Knowles' comment that, that transgenderism must be eliminated. To soften it for all the, stars in the side chat, saying, well, from a conservative point of view, what needs to be taken down is the transgender mindset. What the actual fuck is the transgender mindset? What the actual fuck is transgenderism? There are only transgender people. And all of these people who like dance around things, they don't like us. And they want us to go away. That's the way I see it. I don't want to go away either. And I'm not going to go away. Well, I will go away because I'm old. But, it's impossible to do away. You can shut your eyes. You can through gatekeeping, through which, I don't let Harry Benjamin off the hook. The early versions of the Benjamin Standards of Care were basically prove to me you can act like a man, walk like a man, talk like a man, walk like a man, my son. Right. Right. Correct. Correct. Well, he would recommend them. He himself was a psychologist. This was on the psychology side. But a surgeon, and to this day, a surgeon requires 2 letters, one from a psychiatrist and one from a psychologist to do gender-affirming surgery. And some of those gender-affirming surgeries are available to cis people on demand. Breast enhancement, breast reduction. It's like, it's a silly world we live in.
Yeah.
And still, but it's a whole lot less silly than the days where Benjamin was making the decision. I mean, look, I don't like Ray Blanchard and autogynephilia one little bit. But Blanchard, even in his papers, are saying, yeah, I have tremendous sympathy for these people. And I'm not against gender-affirming care. But I'm going to put forward this theory that is completely misunderstanding and mischaracterizing the phenomenon and the people and everything about it, so that I can give my friends in the psychological community a way to be fucking bigots. And it's so difficult. It's so difficult for a tiny population to make itself understood.
Yeah, apparently the
Thankfully,
audience...
more and more people are hearing us.
Well, they're hearing you. They weren't hearing me. So now they're hearing me now, but of course.
Well, yeah, and that's what we do, right? I mean, I'm old. I've been at this stupid thing for going on 27 years.
Yeah.
And I went through I've been through the evolution. First of all, the criterion that were in effect when I transitioned, and the way they have evolved, and it has been positive. Like,
Been positive
Blanchard
except
was
for the people.
almost instantly discredited. Zucker's got his clinic shut down. All of those gender care facilities that recommended things like when I was very little, like ECT as a way to you think that treating children with electroconvulsive shock therapy is a good idea? That's what these assholes want to go back to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the big thing though. The problem with trans people is the reason there's so many trans people now is because they opened the asylums up, is what they say, or that's how they just describe us. Is like, oh yeah, if I want to go back to a time where you people were spent your life in a psych ward, that's where they want to go back to.
Well, yeah, and they want to go. It's like it's not. It is from observations of all people. It is fairly widely observed that things like gender identity are switched on early in human development, which is why I say being trans is a different way of being human. And people deal with it in different ways. I dealt with it in a very different way for 44 years, and then I couldn't do it anymore. And I don't know how my life would have been different had it been done the way, compassionate treatment for young people, young kids with this kind of conflict would have been. But I'm sure it would have been a very different life. At least I couldn't blame my being fucked up on being trans. It's the thing, and the other part of this is that no one should expect that addressing gender dysphoria is going to solve all your problems. I've got a myriad of problems that are problems that I hold in common with a whole bunch of other people who don't have a lot of money, who are elderly, who are this, who are that. Every life experience has a whole bunch of shit that has nothing to do with being trans.
Yeah, we fit in so many different demographics besides just being trans. We're both white too, so we got white people problems. Like we can't go out in the sun.
I don't have the same experience as a trans person of color. Of course I don't. And part of that has to do with the fact that I come out of a family of privilege. My current circumstances don't reflect that I'm part of an elite. At least that piece of eliteness I have by virtue of who I am and by virtue of genealogy. But solving the trans issue was only one part of things for me and my personal life. And I just wish people would realize that people's problems are discrete, and allowing trans people to solve their own problems in their own way with their own physicians without the intervention of somebody else saying, no, you're impossible and your philosophy is bullshit. I didn't know I had a fucking philosophy when I was 4. Neither did Vivian.
We just know who we are.
We're just people, for fuck's sake.
It's like I'm telling you, this is who I am, and then Elon's wanting to say, no, that's not who you are. Sorry, and it's like you don't get to. No, that's not how this works. You don't get to tell me who I am. I tell you who I am.
Well, I'm really sad that Carly hasn't been able to make the connection. That we couldn't have spliced things in at this point. But
Carly will be back next week. Ember will be back next week. Guess who else we got next week?
Who?
Next week on the TransPositions we have Nominal Naomi.
Yes.
Yeah. If you don't know who Nominal Naomi is, she was she was recently out doing that canvassing in New York with Suris and I guess Vosh and Stacey K and a few other people. But Naomi recently got the bottom surgery, so she's going to come in and talk to us. She's going to come in and hang out with us for our panel. And I think that she's going to, at least, what I think I'm going to do is for my segment, I'm just going to interview Naomi in that segment. So that's how we're going to do it. And then she did say that she would be interested in doing further stuff with us. So we can look forward to that as well. But definitely for next week, she's in. She should be all mended and healed from her surgery and ready to come in and tell us how it went and tell us what it's like. She has another medical experience that she can talk to us about also, was that she was able to lactate and to feed her baby. So, which is a experience. I can't think if there's ever been any other trans woman in history that I know of that they've got to do that. So
I've known a few.
Well, it's
it's a thing. It happens, and when people lose their fucking minds about it, it's really funny that people do lose their fucking minds about it. I remember like 20 years ago, somebody just lose it. You did what? Isn't that bad for the kid? I was like, fuck no, it's just milk. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's what I could do is put together some mean tweets for Naomi. You want to read these mean tweets about your breastfeeding?
Right. I mean, it's just stupid.
You're discussing you're discussing male secretions. It's like, what? No, it's milk.
Yeah, well, go suck on a platypus and I hope you don't get stung by the little thing on his face.
That's yeah, anyway. Let's go ahead and wrap it up here. It's 9:30. We've been going for 2.5 hours now. And, yeah, Carly did show, but we didn't get her up. We couldn't get her up in the booth on time. So thank you so much for popping in, Carly. I know you were probably busy and trying to hustle, so we really do appreciate you. Appreciate Maya for stopping by and talking to Ember about the base of allyship, and that's where we need to start building from here. I hope you guys liked learning about Wendy Carlos with me, and a little bit about another trans person who was a major impact on our society, and then obviously meeting Vivian Wilson this evening was a delight if you hadn't met her before. She's a pretty feisty little thing. I look forward to hearing more from her. I'm actually going on to Threads and interacting with Threads just because of her. That's where I'm at right now. That's my headspace. But thank you for joining us. This has been the TransPositions Weekly.
It's been fun, folks. Look, follow us if you want to interact with us more frequently when we're not broadcasting. We're generally there in the TransPositions Discord. We have a bunch of papers where we discuss all of these things. We interact with one another. We'd love to build that community as well. And also just follow our friends. Follow our friends. The channels we love. Watch the Transatlantic Call-In show where people, sometimes me, occasionally, get to handle some calls from people who are more than just asking questions, and sometimes the questions are on the positive side, and sometimes they're not. It's a friendly space for that sort of thing, and you can interact with some people there. So,
yeah.
The Discord is one way, and subscribe to Bree's channel, High Side, subscribe to mine, Steppy Cat. I haven't done much recently, but I keep promising myself, and keep watching this space. We're going to try to have more and more guests to enliven the proceedings for you.
Yeah, we're going to start trying to have more regular guests on our weekly show. So Naomi's just the first one that we got lined up. Hopefully, we'll keep the momentum going. All right, well, this has been the Transpositions. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Now, another interesting thing that this study did was determine the sex of the individuals at the lake. And this is a really beautiful study that I think all of you should keep and show next time you hear a TERF on the internet say, well, when they find your skeleton, they're going to know that you were a man. Because with our cutting-edge modern technology of 2023, of the 27 skeletons found at Rupkund Lake, there were only to decisively determine the sexes of 2 of them. There was 1 confirmed male and 1 confirmed female. And then with that, there were 4 probable males and 5 probable females, and 16 individuals remained completely unidentified. So take that bone powder in your J.K. Rowling pipe and shove it up your ass.